From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Different jobs, one goal.
Each aspect of our work, from the cattle and deer to the fruits and vegetables, contributes to a fulfilling and sustainable lifestyle that we're proud to share with our family and community.
Meet a Texas couple that isn't afraid to wear many hats in agriculture. Brazil inks new deals with its top trading partner.
There's some risks involved in trading with the U.S.
The impact Brazil's agreements with China will have on U.S. producers as a blast of winter weather moves in.
I was not expecting this snowstorm at all.
The Northwest gets hit by a bomb cyclone, the latest on the path of these storms right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Great performance in the field makes Pioneer brand corn #1 in America. For a winning season, it's Pioneer brand corn. Your best year starts here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Parts of the country are getting their first blast of winter weather for the season, with a powerful snowmaker hitting the central part of the country, bringing blizzard conditions, while what's being called a once-in-a-decade bomb cyclone lashed at the northwestern part of the U.S. As Laura Aguirre reports, the storm brought hurricane-force winds, leaving hundreds of thousands without power.
This is crazy. There's trees up everywhere. There's houses destroyed.
Driving snow and a slew of downed trees mark a bomb cyclone's powerful impact across parts of the Pacific Northwest overnight.
I was not expecting this snowstorm at all.
But in it came, with hurricane-force winds gusting over 70 miles per hour that toppled countless trees, in mmany cases taking power lines with them, knocking hundreds of thousands of people off the grid. Puget Sound Energy, which services the Seattle area, says the mass outage could last multiple days. This North Seattle resident, one of the lucky ones.
I could hear it creaking, and I wasn't sure if it was falling or just like moving in the wind, and then I heard it breaking through some branches.
Many of his neighbors spent the day assessing damaged homes and vehicles. The intense winter storm also being blamed for some fatalities. One of them, a Bellevue, Washington woman who fire officials say was killed in her shower when a tree crushed her home. In the mountainous passes between Portland and Central Oregon, tire chains are a must.
Getting pretty delirious now. We're on minute 37 of getting these chains on.
The wicked weather isn't over. Forecasters say the bomb cyclone essentially tapped an atmospheric river, which is expected to dump torrential rain over the region through tomorrow, with forecasters predicting Northern California could reach a rare level 4 of 4 flood risk over the next 24 hours. I'm Laura Aguirre reporting for AgDay.
So is this winter weather a sign of things to come for the next few days? Meteorologist Jack Van Meter has an update for us.
Taking a look at some of our snowfall estimates, because yes, actually a lot of folks, especially in the Midwest, actually going to get their first taste of winter, especially earlier in the week. Let's go ahead and start this. And again, notice the Great Lakes, especially along Lake Michigan there. Actually, we're going to start to turn up the lake effect snow machine. Actually, areas down south as well, over in upstate New York and Pennsylvania, actually going to be getting a dusting of snow. What we're dealing with is a low that's pretty much cut off and strengthening, and it's going to be turning out especially towards the east. But actually the East Coast and the Midwest will not be the only parts of the country that start to see snow. If we go all the way out west, we can see, again, out there in Iowa, that some places actually will be starting to see, again, their first snow, especially up in the higher elevations as well. And again, just west there of New York City, we could be seeing some pretty decent snow accumulations. And here comes the snow, just a dusting on near Mason City, Iowa to start the day on Wednesday. But areas of the state could see more later on today. Well, I'll have the details in my forecast coming right up.
Ahead of those storms, the Biden administration is urging Congress to pass a $100 billion disaster relief spending bill. Nearly half of the funding would go towards FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund. The bill also includes funding for other agencies, including the Department of Agriculture, Transportation, and the Small Business Administration. Now, the request comes as Americans in the Southeast are still cleaning up from major back-to-back hurricanes Helene and Milton. Florida officials recently tallying up the damage to ag in the state from Hurricane Helene, putting the losses at between $40.3 million and $162.2 million. They say Helene impacted more than 5 million acres of ag land in Florida. 68% of the affected land is used for grazing. And more aid for producers in need, with USDA launching $2 billion in aid for specialty crops and disaster recovery. Now, the money would come from the department's Commodity Credit Corporation. It would support domestic supply and market expansion for fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Additionally, $140 million will fund the Commodity Storage Assistance Program. It's aimed at restoring crop storage infrastructure lost to natural disasters this year, particularly southeastern producers following Hurricanes Debbie, Helene, and Milton. Brazil has signed several new agreements with its biggest trading partner, China, and it includes several items related to agriculture in both countries. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins me. And Michelle, these agreements were signed during Chinese President Xi's visit to Brasilia.
Clinton, the deals signed between Brazil and China are just the next step in a broader trade plan that includes Chinese investment into Brazilian agriculture, infrastructure, and energy. It's also a signal of China trying to diversify and make the U.S. a secondary supplier. And the timing is no coincidence with the looming threat of tariffs under the new administration. Brazil and China signed 37 trade deals covering agriculture, tech cooperation, trade and investments, infrastructure, industry, energy, and mining. Included were sanitary and phytosanitary agreements for beef, pork, and fruits, similar to those agreed to last year on corn and soybeans.
Those initial barriers to trade are now being relaxed, or at least negotiated to a point where both the buyer and the seller understands what those requirements are.
Olson says China has decided to lessen their dependence on the U.S. since the 2018 trade war.
There's some risks involved in trading with the U.S., so now they're looking for diversification. And the easiest path, especially for China, has been to go to Brazil for not only soybeans, but also an increase in corn, as well as now some of the meat products.
The signing is part of a longer, broader trade deal between China and Brazil as part of BRICS, and Chinese companies have already been investing in Brazil.
For quite a long time, they've invested a lot of money in their ports and their facilities down there.
And it's not just in agriculture, but it's also in some of the energy products.
Fitzenmeyer believes China wants to stop buying from the U.S. altogether, including soybeans.
So, I mean, a trade agreement there is, who's surprised by that? That's just a mega trend that's been going on for a while and is probably going to continue to go on. I mean, the soybean business is slipping to South America and has been for several years here now.
Olson says financially, China can't shut out U.S. imports, especially on soybeans, even though politically that might be their goal.
I don't think Brazil could supply 100% of the Chinese needs, but it's going to be a lot more expensive. And in particular for the Chinese consumers, as well as their Chinese food processing sector. And so that becomes the trade-off.
But he does acknowledge the timing of the deal signing ceremony may be intentional.
To have that kind of impact, to try and influence how, again, the new Trump administration handles, their goals for trade and potential tariffs as we move forward in time.
I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. The American Farm Bureau Federation is releasing its annual look at the cost of Thanksgiving dinner. And it says overall this year, Americans will be paying less. However, it says it's still more expensive than it was before the pandemic. Now, it says a feast for 10 would come out to $58.08, or about $5.80 per person. That's a 5% drop from last year. But it says the meal is still 19% higher than it was back in 2019. Now, the centerpiece, the turkey, helped bring down the overall cost of the dinner, with the average price for a 16-pound turkey coming in at $25.67, down 6% from last year. Items like dinner rolls and cube stuffing both saw an 8% increase. Cranberry prices are up almost 12%. New export sales of soybeans weren't enough to pull prices higher on Wednesday. We'll talk about markets coming up next. And later, we're off to the Lone Star State to see how one couple is wearing many hats while focusing on their one passion, farming in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service. Help keep African swine fever out of the U.S. by updating your biosecurity plan. Learn more at aphis.usda.gov/protectourpigs.
USDA reported flash sales of soybeans to China and unknown destinations. Soybeans made little headway, being pushed down by soybean oil. AgDay's Michelle Rook has more in markets now.
Well, grains closed mixed on Wednesday. Dwayne Bussey is back with analysis. And Dwayne, corn and wheat futures managed to end at the plus side despite a stronger dollar. So a little bit of impressive move there.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, the trade action looks good for corn and wheat to me. They look like they want to go higher. And like you said, especially when the outside markets, the US dollar's up above 106.5. That's usually very bearish on wheat into the close, but we held in there. Obviously, a whole lot of war premium being built up in the wheat market.
Yeah, and we've been building that war premium, but you got to wonder how much farther can corn or wheat, for that matter, go here, especially because we're up into some areas where we're going to hit chart resistance again, aren't we?
Yeah, you're right. Well, hey, actually, I think quite a bit higher when it comes to the wheat complex, not because the fundamentals are so bullish, but because the funds are short the wheat market. And if this war premium needs to be added in, if war escalates over the weekend, I mean, it definitely has been escalating lately, right? But if those funds want out of, say, all their short positions, which I know is a lot, but you could rally this market back to $6. I mean, it's not built on supply and demand. It'd be all war premium in that case.
But corn can't get above 435 in the December contract, and we're going into option expiration.
You're right. I think the rest of this week here, December corn's going to struggle, probably stay pretty close to this 430 area because of those DEES options expiring. But as far as how much higher can corn go, you know, the funds already flipped from this record short to long 100,000 contracts. The depressing thing is we haven't rallied much, but I don't think they stop at 100,000, Michelle. For whatever reason, I think they want to go long this corn market, probably because of our bullish demand. So we can probably get up to 450 here eventually, but boy, there's going to be a lot of farmers selling there.
Yeah, and then you've got soybeans going the opposite direction. Talk about what weighed on soybeans Wednesday. Was it all about soybean oil?
Yeah, soybean oil definitely had that market down hard, and just soybeans feel heavy in general. It's hard for me to talk so bullish two commodities and then bearish the other because they don't often go in opposite directions. But boy, when I think of soybeans in a bubble, I'm very bearish and think the market's just got to keep grinding lower. But we held support again for now, but those contract lows feel like they're going to be in danger eventually.
No doubt, especially with that big South American crop coming. All right, thanks for joining us, Dwayne Bussey with Bulk Marketing. We'll have more AgDay coming up.
Taking a look at our current radar, actually our radar picture for the rest of the day. There's two main things I want everybody to keep their eyes on. First, it's going to be this low pressure system that again is bringing a lot of parts of the Midwest and East Coast their first chance of snow. We can see that turning again over the Great Lakes. The second thing is actually going to be another low pressure system, but this time a very strong system that's going to be off the Pacific Northwest that actually some people are characterizing as a bomb cyclone. Now, bomb cyclone just means a very, very strong and intensifying low pressure system, just to keep that in mind. As I play this radar picture through, we can see again snow is going to be distributed as far south potentially as Tennessee and especially Kentucky there. So do watch out for that, because we can see rain is going to wrap around the northern half of the East Coast there, to keep that in mind. And that cyclone, again, that mid-latitude cyclone or low pressure center is going to be moving on land, I should say, and it's going to be giving actually a lot of folks a lot of moisture, and actually especially in the higher elevations out there going to be seeing some snowfall as well. For your weekend though, especially for Sunday, much of the country, especially the south, is going to be completely dry. So again, very, very good news for any additional harvest that is starting to keep on going down there, especially just north of Atlanta. Again, in Tennessee, could be seeing just some light rain moving into next week. Keep that in mind. Here's our root zone moisture map, a very, very important map where we can see pretty much what part of the soil is actually wet. And this actually is updated more frequently than the drought monitor. But much like the drought monitor, we can see again the northeast still going to be very, very dry, especially over there in New Jersey and other parts of the country that will be very dry again, from all the way down in West Texas, spanning up through the plains as well. They haven't really seen all that much rainfall, but a lot of places, especially in the Midwest, is getting a little better. Here's our jet stream, and here's that big cutoff low system that is turning again across the Midwest and giving people a lot of shot at snow. And again, what do we have coming building back? Well, it's going to be a ridge to quiet our weather down going into the weekend. Devil's Lake, North Dakota, 22 degrees and low of 14 degrees. Pretty cold over there. Beaver, Washington, 47 degrees and a low of 41 degrees, rain. And finally, El Dorado, Kansas, 52 degrees, low of 29 degrees.
We've been covering the outbreak of avian flu in dairy cattle since the first cases were confirmed earlier this year. Now, researchers are working to learn more about the virus and its impact on humans. Researchers report genetic sequencing of the H5N1 virus infecting a hospitalized teenager in British Columbia has revealed mutations that may increase its potential for human infection. Now, it's reported the teen remains critically ill, but how that teen became infected is still being investigated. While experts caution against overreaction, they recognize the potential threat of it transmitting among humans. Now, analysts say the case stresses the need for vigilant global monitoring and public health preparedness. You'll remember the virus was first identified as a strain of highly pathogenic avian influenza at 3 dairies in Texas and 1 in Kansas back in March. Now the virus has been found in 15 states, impacting 549 dairy herds. Since April, there have also been 52 human cases here in the U.S. Wildfires and flooding can destroy several miles worth of fencing in just minutes, but specialists at the University of California Cooperative Extension may have come up with a solution. It's called virtual fencing. The livestock containment technology uses GPS-enabled collars to monitor each animal's location in near real time. Livestock producers draw a perimeter on a map of their pasture using a laptop or smartphone. They can then send those instructions to the collar. Now, the collar uses audio and tactile cues to contain the animal in that area. Researchers with the University of California say using virtual fencing, 25 cattle were successfully concentrated on a field of medusa head, an invasive annual grass. They report the herd respected the fencing boundary 99% of the time, despite more preferable forage nearby. Researchers claim the high cost of virtual fencing can be offset by the unique animal and land management benefits it can provide. Farmers are often considered jacks of all trade, and all of those jobs lead to one goal: growing the farm for this Texas couple. Their story next.
AgDay is brought to you by Pivot Bio. Protect yield potential with a new mode of action in nitrogen. See how Pivot Bio fits into your fertility plan at talknitrogen.com.
Farmers wear many hats, and a farming couple in Texas fits that to a T. The Texas Farm Bureau introduces us to Jacob and Laura Henson and their many jobs and business ventures.
I'm a 6th-generation farmer in Erath County. Both my husband and I grew up deeply immersed in agriculture. It's shaped our passions and careers. At age 5, my parents started a custom silage harvesting business. I've continued to be involved in it for over 25 years. I'm Laura Henson.
And I'm Jacob Henson, and we live in Lincolnville, Texas. I grew up helping bale hay and tending cattle on my family's small ranch in Eastland, Texas. As a student, I dedicated 10 years to showing cattle through 4-H and FFA. But my interest in science led me to pursue a degree in biology. Now, I run a construction company that both Laura and I own. We do remodels as well as trim and finish work for new builds.
I continued my agricultural education, obtaining a bachelor's in agricultural communication and a master's in agricultural economics. I'm currently pursuing my PhD in ag economics. I serve as an adjunct instructor and research associate at Tarleton State University. This role allows me to share my knowledge and passion for agriculture with the next generation. I bring practical examples to my classroom, driving home critical topics and providing students with a realistic view of the industry.
Together, we also own a small business marketing agency. We work with both agriculture and non-agriculture businesses across Texas, providing a one-stop shop for all their marketing needs.
We co-own a commercial Black Angus cross cattle herd alongside my father and brother. During the silage season, we take primary responsibility for the herd. We manage everything from the health and welfare of the cattle to repairs and maintenance around the farm. We also assist in managing my parents' high-fenced whitetail deer ranch.
Our most recent venture is growing fruits and vegetables, including tomatoes, squash, peaches, blackberries, and peppers. This has allowed us to connect directly with consumers at local farmers markets. providing fresh, locally grown produce, and building relationships within our community.
Each aspect of our work, from the cattle and deer to the fruits and vegetables, contributes to a fulfilling and sustainable lifestyle that we're proud to share with our family and community.
And our thanks to the Texas Farm Bureau for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.